Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Hello and welcome to the Skeptic Zone podcast, episode number 413 for the 18th of September 2016. Richard Saunders here with you from soggy, grey, cloudy Sydney, Australia. Coming up on this week's show, we catch up with some old friends of the Skeptic Zone. First of all, the delightful Sharon Hill. Sharon Hill from doubtfulnews.com. Sharon's going to be filling us in, updating us, bringing us latest news from Doubtful News, and we'll also discuss the merits of ghost hunting, ghost tours, ghost busting, all that sort of thing. Coming up at the top of the show, the incomparable Sharon Hill. Following that, it's a very concerning story we're bringing you, thanks to the Reasonable Hank blog, about nurses, registered nurses and midwives, who are also anti-vax. And they're not shy about it. These nurses and midwives are happy to post up on blogs and Facebook groups anti-vaccination memes and so on. And we're going to be reading out some of the bizarre, wacky and crazy memes, anti-vaccination memes these people circulate or recirculate or regurgitate, one might say. Then to round off the show, our old friend Ben Radford is going to be joining us to talk about a very strange story, evil clowns. Now, Ben's got a book out about naughty, evil, bad clowns, but I thought we'd have a little talk about this because it's something that's just totally bizarre. Mysterious, evil-looking, bad clowns running about the countryside, up to no good. It is a strange story. And Ben and I will also be discussing the latest photograph from Loch Ness. I don't know whether you've seen it. It's spoiler alert, it's clearly a small group of seals swimming about and playing about. But this has been touted as one of the best photographs of the Loch Ness Monster, well touted by the media. Clickbait, I suppose, a bit of a story. But it's an interesting case, this new photograph from Loch Ness. More or less because it shows to us clearly what's really going on with many photographs in the past, which undoubtedly those of seals swimming about Loch Ness. Anyway, all that and more with Ben Radford to round off the show. And before we get to that, a couple of notes from me. I've recently been tinkering with the Skeptic Zone website at skepticzone.tv, and if you click on the link at the top of the page that says episodes, click, which I'm doing now, you'll get the standard Libsyn list of episodes. You can scroll down and go directly to the year or the month that you're interested in. Scrolling down now goes all the way, of course, to 2008 when the show started. But more importantly, I think, right near the top of the episodes link, the episodes page which comes up, there's a keyword search. And that works very well. If, for example, you want to find out all the times I interviewed my good friend Richard Wiseman, for example. If you type Wiseman, Richard Wiseman, or just Wiseman into the keyword search, hit the search button, up comes every episode where we've had the pleasure of interviewing Richard Wiseman. Or James Randi, if you put in James Randi, up comes all the interviews with James Randi going back over the years. Eugenie Scott, maybe, if you want to listen to her interviews. It's a nice feature which I haven't utilized until now, but I'm glad it's there. Stay tuned at the end of the episode. I have a few more little notes and announcements to make. But one I'll share with you right now is next week's episode of the Skeptic Zone is going to be early. Actually, it'll be a few days early. It might even come out on the Thursday or the Friday, I think, at this stage. Quite early, because in a few days I am interviewing Ben Goldacre, who's coming out courtesy of Think Inc. to do a tour of Australia and New Zealand. And in order for our Skeptic Zone listeners to get the full benefit before they see Ben Goldacre, I will be putting out the show a bit earlier next week, or this week, later this week, I should say. So, yes, look out possibly Thursday or something like that for an early episode of the Skeptic Zone. But now it's time for me to run downstairs, have some nice smoked salmon with avocado on toast, drizzled, that is a nice word, drizzled with a little bit of sesame oil. Why, I enjoy that, and I will. I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. Joining me now on the line all the way from a place I'd like to visit. I've heard it's a bit dull. I'd still like to visit it. Visit Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. It's Sharon Hill. Hello.
Hi, Richard. How are you?
I'm doing really well. And no, I have not been to that part of the United States. I've not been to Washington, D.C. or New York or Pennsylvania. It can't be that dull. Is it really that dull?
It's pretty dull. What they say about Pennsylvania is, well, we have Philadelphia on one side, Pittsburgh on the other, and, Alabama in between, basically, because there's nothing there but farmland. And yeah, that's about it.
I'm sure it has a beauty and a wonder all of its own.
That's true.
It must. Everywhere does, I guess, when you look for it. But no, it's about time we caught up with you, Sharon. The Skeptic Zone listeners are well aware of what you do because I regularly play the Doubtful News promo with that interesting little music. How is, for listeners who haven't heard it and don't know, can you tell me a little bit about the history of Doubtful News, why you did it, and how's it going at the moment?
Right. I started it, 2011 or something like that. I can't even remember now. It was so long ago. And I started it up as a way to talk about weird news in the media, that the media was sort of falling down on these stories. They weren't being critical. They weren't digging into them. They weren't giving information that could help people decide whether these stories were true or not. They were just sort of playing up the hype. And I found that kind of annoying. And I was able to rewrite the stories into a blog form and add a little bit more information so people would start maybe thinking a little bit more critically and deeper about these questionable claims. And then they could decide for themselves if maybe the media was being a little bit too generous and credulous. So that's why I called it Doubtful News. And it went on for a number of years. And then we took a break back in April of this year. And I thought that was going to be the end of it, actually. I was pretty worn out. There's a lot of weird news, and it was very difficult to keep up. And you can get pretty jaded trying to...
Oh, yes, of course.
It's talk about the same stories all the time.
It's never ending. It really is.
No, and it can be frustrating. So I needed a break. And then in June... I updated a story about a guy who thought he found a Bigfoot skull fossil. And I thought, this is what I do. I talk about these weird stories and I can't help it. So within the past month, I've started to put up some new stories since middle August. And we've started to keep the site active again and decided that maybe some interesting new projects are coming down the road pretty soon.
Well, I'm pleased to know that you're back in the swing of things, so to speak. What are some of the stories that have caught your attention, apart from that one, recently?
Well, I think it's the official silly season, isn't it? We have enough going on in the U.S. here with our crazy election, but there's these stories that are coming out in the news because perhaps it's a slow news day otherwise. And the bigger stories that what's going on right now as we speak are crazy clowns appearing in North and South Carolina and scaring children.
This sounds like something that Ben Radford would be interested in.
He wrote a great article about it, and after I read that article, and then it keeps going, as you know, there's contagion with these stories. Then other people start thinking that they see these clowns. And right now, there's a couple things also going on in the media with regards to clowns. There's a new movie or two coming out about evil clowns. Ben's book, Bad Clowns, is recently released, and I think that people just have clowns on their mind. And the funny part is that for the past week or so that these clowns have been appearing, no one's taken a picture or a video that could be authenticated, which is weird because they're in residential areas and everybody has a cell phone, and lots of places have security cameras or surveillance cameras. Why aren't these clowns showing up? Are they phantoms? Are they interdimensional? Or are people just, having a good old time with these stories? It's kind of a mystery.
Clowns. That one hasn't made it to Australia yet, I guess. But you make a very good point about the cell phones, and everybody has cell phones. And this is a point I made a few months back on the Skeptic Zone in relation to UFOs. Of course, if there's all this paranormal activity going along, be it UFOs, if we can call that paranormal, or ghosts, or evil clowns, and there are so many people out there with good quality cameras on their person all the time. Why aren't we flooded with incredible high-definition pictures of the paranormal?
Right. Well, I have a personal account of this, of why that could be. I was staying at a cabin on a ridge in West Virginia a few weeks ago. It was a summer night, and it was very warm out, and I was out on the deck, and it was dark, probably about 10 p.m., and it was very loud with summer insects. So I couldn't hear anything but these insects, and I'm looking out at the stars, and I see this very, very bright light, not too distant, and it's extremely bright, and it's moving very slowly up, down, and sideways within a very small area. And it took me about 2 minutes of looking at it, trying to figure out what it was, before I realized I had the iPad in my hand and I hadn't picked it up and took a picture.
Yes. Interesting.
I was too involved in observing. And by the time I realized that and got the camera open and pointed it, it was beyond the trees and I couldn't see it anymore. It turns out that it was probably a drone, that it appeared that the neighbors may have had a drone that they flew at night. The next morning, I heard a strange buzzing sound that sounded like a drone. And I think that that's what it probably was. It would make sense. And other people have suggested that to me as well. So that was my failure to catch a UFO.
Well, I think we're going to hear more about this in the future as more and more drones are being flown around, and especially at night with little lights on them. But still,
and some of them are made to look like UFOs even. It's great. But I have another story.
Oh, yeah?
I have another story in the news, and this came from your part of the world, where somebody took a cell phone video of what they say was a thylacine, a Tasmanian tiger.
I have seen that. It was on our news reports here last night, an incredibly grainy and patchy picture of something that looks like something moving somewhere. It's very hard to tell.
Isn't it amazing? Again, such poor quality when we have these great instruments right in our hands. So, yeah, unfortunately, videos, photographs, they're practically worthless anymore because of the manipulation. But man, we ought to learn how to use them better.
Well, that's true. I wouldn't say they're worthless. I mean, if something did happen, I mean, if there really was a thylacine and somebody had their wits about them, they could get just absolutely mind-snapping evidence of such a thing, or whatever other odd phenomena there might be about. But just getting back to the website itself, I'm curious, over the years, have you had much feedback from people who have got a great deal of benefit out of your site, maybe journalists or other people?
Sure. I have had a lot of the audience say that they just loved the site because they were sick of seeing garbage on the news. And I've had a couple professors contact me and say they use it in their classrooms.
Wow.
To refer their students to this type of story in comparison to the regular media stories. I even had one professor, a friend of the website, tell me there really is nothing else on the web like Doubtful News because it covered such an array of subject areas. It was just huge, all kinds of subject areas, from alt-med to conspiracy to cryptozoology and paranormal stuff, which it's difficult to do for one person.
Yeah.
So it is kind of a lot to juggle, but I love this kind of stuff. And I'm trying to get some good information out there, maybe information that people won't see anyplace else. And I think that the audience appreciates that. And I do get some journalists who will see the story and contact me. And we also have a little circle here in the U.S. of independent researchers that if we don't have the capability to talk about a subject, we will pass the journalist off to one of our friends who has expertise in that area.
That's brilliant. It's such a good thing to know that there is such a resource out there, not just for journalists, of course, but just for the general population who are curious and interested and would like another take on some of the strange and bizarre stories we get out there. But when you're not busily poring over your doubtful news, you're actually getting out there and doing things. And I understand that recently you went to Washington, D.C. to hunt for a ghost.
Well, I'm a member of the National Capital Area Skeptics. I'm a board member with them, and that's the Washington, D.C. Skeptics group. It's one of the oldest in the U.S. And we are planning to run a Skept tour on ghosts for around Halloween time. So I decided to go down and check out the commercial ghost tour. And the tour was of Lafayette Square, which is the park area. It's called President's Park. It's right between the White House and a block up Constitution Avenue. There's Pennsylvania Avenue. There's a park in there, and it's surrounded by, they're now government buildings, but their facades look like houses. And at one time they were houses, and many of them are supposedly haunted. So I went on this ghost tour and around Lafayette Square, and I listened to her stories, and I was just so unimpressed. Now, I had been on a ghost tour before, but this one was worse.
Now, I have to laugh because I have been on a number of ghost tours myself, and they range from the amusing and fun, where they don't take themselves too seriously and you learn some history along the way, which is good, to the cringingly pathetic, where it's just, here's another spot and here's another story, here's another spot and here's another story. Take a photograph now with your flash and you'll see ghost orbs. And it's just...
Exactly. That's exactly how it was.
Was it?
Yes. She was like, orbs are psychic energy. Take as many pictures as you can because you'll see them.
It really is, it really is pathetic. And sometimes believers get a little bit upset with skeptics, or naturally enough. And then they'll say, oh, you skeptics are so mean and you're picking on us, and they'll play what we call the victim card. But sometimes we just have to come out with it and just say what's going on. But some things are just truly cringeworthy and pathetic.
Yeah, but what I got out of this ghost tour was the state of ghost tours in the U.S. right now. And it really is not worth your money for most of these. There probably are some good ones. The ones that I've been on have not been particularly great. So we're going to try a different spin on a ghost tour, and I think it'll be fun.
Oh, I would love to join you on that. Who knows? Maybe when they invent the transporter from Star Trek, I can join you. It's a little bit difficult. But also, I understand that you're working on a book.
Right. A few years ago, I got a master's degree in science in the public. It was a science education degree, and the focus of my master's thesis was paranormal investigators and how they say they use science. So I'm working that up into a book right now. I'm at the heavy editing stage, and so it's going to be a while longer, but I hope that this gets out there, and hopefully it's my goal that real paranormal investigators of all stripes, ghost hunters, UFO seekers, Bigfoot hunters, they read it and they see that we can do investigation a different way. We don't have to pretend to play a scientist. We don't have to say we're doing all this scientific stuff. We could be more rational and maybe actually get some good information out of these investigations for a change.
Really? Good luck.
Yeah. I'm still at the optimistic stage right now.
Well, in my experience, and I've seen this at a number of the New Age festivals I go to, or the paranormal conventions, there'll be the ghost hunters there. They normally there are groups of them, like clubs, and they almost universally will have black T-shirts with some sort of ghost logo on them, and they will have where I've seen them, they'll have the table display, and there are all sorts of scientific looking instruments and detectors,
right,
which of course, as Brian Dunning reminds us in one of his Skeptoid episodes, are simply just laughable. They can't detect things that have no known physical properties.
What I did find out in the research is, from the beginning of technology, at the dawn of science, apparatus has always been associated with science. Scientists have to have something in their hands and trying to measure things, and gadgets and lighty things and gizmos. And so it's not ghost hunters or ghostbusters that invented this. It's always been the case. And in fact, even when the camera and the radio was invented, those were sort of seen as supernatural apparatus, because it felt that they could maybe transcend the natural world and capture something on the other side. So this has been going on for a really long time. And I think what I was able to see is this pattern of these investigators and the things that they pick out, and things that they use, the roles that they try to play. And it's almost a model of the way that they behave. So it's been an interesting experience.
And it's occurred to me, of course, it's one sphere of investigation with an incredible failure rate. I think it's around 100% so far.
Right. And
if they're ghost hunters.
The sad thing is that the people who call them sometimes really do need help. They're scared. They're very freaked out. They believe something strange is going on, and they want someone to talk to. And these amateur investigators do serve a role. Where else could these people go to tell their story and have a sympathetic ear? So in a way, they do play an interesting role in our society. Scientists have left these fields. They don't want anything to do with it. And who are these people to turn to? It's kind of strange.
I guess so, and it sort of feeds back on itself, because the people who want to have these people come and investigate the ghosts are just the sort of people who would believe in ghosts anyway. And when these people turn up with scientific-looking instruments and their black T-shirts, and they have various roles, and they'll bring along, oh yeah, one of them in the group is normally the group's clairvoyant or medium or something like that, to tune in on the vibrations. Oh, it's kind of hilarious, because they say we use science, but yet we bring along our psychic. That's right. Well, I look forward to that book very much. It is an interesting area. Hey, if I can offer any insights from Australia, I'd be happy to do so. But anyway, Sharon, I'm so pleased that Doubtful News is going strong. Good on you for taking a break. I know that sometimes it crosses my mind it would be nice to take a break from the Skeptic Zone every week. But it is an important thing to do. I think it's a terrific resource. And what's that website once again?
Doubtfulnews.com.
That's easy to remember. And in fact, next time I see you, I must buy you some dinner, so you'll give me another lovely Doubtful News T-shirt. I wore the last one out. The last one I wore to death.
We have these great bags too, so if anyone in the
I've got one.
Yeah, if anyone wants to hit me up for some bags, I can get them great tote bags that fold up and fit inside your car box or your purse, or they're good swag to have.
Yes, they're fantastic, because I use one. I got one off you. I guess it was the last TAM last year where I saw you, and you very kindly gave me a Doubtful News tote bag, and they scrunch right up, and you open them up, and they're fantastic. Oh, you're a good person to know, Sharon Hill, and
thank you.
I do look forward to the next time we meet. Hopefully it won't be too long. Yeah. But for now, Sharon Hill, all the way over there in Harrisburg, thank you very much.
Thanks, Richard. Bye, everybody.
coin 100 times, and I'm allowed to withhold from you the answers half the times, then I can convince you that I have a coin with 2 heads, okay? If we remove half of the data, we can never know what the true effect size of these medicines is. We cannot make decisions in the absence of all of the information. In science, we don't care how many letters you have after your name. In science, we want to know what your reasons are for believing something. How do you know that something is good for us or bad for us?
An evening with Ben Goldacre. Homeopathic hucksters, nonsensical naturopaths, anti-intellectual anti-vaxxers, slippery statisticians, the journalists daring to declare meats as critically carcinogenic. Let's not forget fraudulent pharmaceutical firms. So when the public is kept in the dark about the detrimental duplicity of these declarations, how many scientists does it take to screw in a light bulb that illuminates the facts? Just one. Dr. Ben Goldacre, shining a light in Australia and New Zealand this September. An Evening with Ben Goldacre is brought to you by Think Inc., the folks behind the Australian tours of Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, James the Amazing Randi, Steve Wozniak, and many more. Ben Goldacre will be speaking in Brisbane, Melbourne, Auckland, and Sydney. And to get your tickets, visit www.thinkinc.org.au. And I hope to see you at the Sydney Talk on Sunday, the 25th of September. Now here's something of very great concern, brought to us by our friend Reasonable Hank at the Reasonable Hank blog, which is reasonablehank.com. He is the pin-up man, or should I say the dartboard pin-up man of many anti-vaxxers, many anti-vaxxer, loon conspiracy theorists, chiropractor, especially the anti-vaccination ones, and alt-med huckster. What Reasonable Hank has done now for some months is put up on his blog the rantings and ravings and postings, online postings, of anti-vaccination nurses and midwives. Yes, it's hard to believe that there is a certain percentage for nurses and midwives who are anti-vaccination, who have bought into the conspiracy theories, and one hates to think what they're advising young parents. Now, what Reasonable Hank has done is he has not only named these people, he has extensive pages on them showing their postings online to great detail on how they are, in fact, really anti-vaccination. And what it also has done, and I don't know if Reasonable Hank set out to do this, it's also turned into somewhat of an interesting archive, interesting in a morbid sense, of anti-vaccination memes. And just clicking on some of the screenshots posted by these anti-vaccination nurses and midwives, we can see many examples of the memes that they've posted, the screen captures. And I thought I'd read some of them out to you. These are doing the rounds of the internet. Of course, we expect them from the anti-vaccination zealots out there, but we just don't expect this sort of thing from people who really should know better and need to know better, being nurses and midwives. Now, of course, must be a tiny percentage of nurses and midwives. I'm sure the vast majority are on board with the science and wouldn't be so stupid and foolhardy as to join in the general conspiracy theories, but the ones listed on Reasonable Hank's blog appear to be. So here are some of the memes as posted at various places by these nurses and midwives. Here's one. It's a lovely picture of the ocean. What does it say? 1 in every 42 boys now has autism. Does 1 in every 42 boys die of measles? ? There are various postings here for the Vaxxed movie. Help bring the movie Vaxxed From cover-up to catastrophe to Australia and New Zealand. Share and find our group on Facebook. Oh dear. Another one with a road sign says, vaccine checkpoint ahead. And just scrolling through the lists here, here's another meme come up, posted by one of these nurses. Your baby needs the hepatitis V vaccine in case he shoots up heroin with a prostitute. Charming. Here's another one, a meme that says, the murdering of our daughters, which is ranting about the Gardasil vaccination. Another one, it's quite graphic. There is a picture of a little baby lying on a poison sign with lots of needles stuck all over its body. The next picture along has a man in a chemical hazard suit spraying crops, it would appear. And there's another picture there of a teenager guzzling a hamburger. And the caption is, a world gone mad, where this is normal and okay, in those pictures. And this is radical in quackery. And the radical in quackery are organic foods, a classic meditation shot of somebody sitting cross-legged with their hands over their head, and what appears to be herbs and things ready to grind into natural medicine, I imagine. Oh, another one. It's a grandmother and a little baby, but the grandmother is a wolf. Like Little Red Riding Hood wolf, I guess. Grandma, your DTaP only stops you from coughing. After exposure, you still carry pertussis in your airways for 6 weeks. Understand the danger, with a website link. And we've clicked over to another listing from another one of these nurses and midwives. Here's the next meme as published, as promoted, as recycled by one of these people. I am not anti-vaccine. I am pro-child, pro-family, pro-community. I am pro-science. I am pro-research. I am pro-health, pro-well-being, pro-safety. I am pro-government transparency. I am pro-pharmaceutical company accountability. I am pro-honesty. I am pro-critical thinking. I am pro-freedom. In other words, she is anti-vaccination. All this rhetoric they go on about pro-freedom and all the rest of it, it's just a cover-up. They're, of course, they're anti-vaccination. I mean, the same one has links to vaccine-free Australia and unvaccinated Australia and so on. Another one they've posted up, another meme, has men dressed in riot gear with lots of needles attacking people on the street. In the background, the riot truck says mandatory vaccination, and the lettering says, take a long, sobering look into the not-too-distant future. There we go. We're going to be tackled to the ground by riot police with needles. And another picture has a little baby crying, being taken away by one of these evil vaccine enforcement police. It's quite amazing, Hank. Reasonable Hank, you've really put together an incredible archive of these anti-vaccination memes. Here's another one. Top 5 reasons to vaccinate your kids. Number 1. Injecting aluminium and formaldehyde is healthy. 2. You never read the package insert. 3. Seizures, asthma, and allergies are fun. 4. You don't understand natural human immunity. And 5. Everyone else does it. Now, what is also on the website, listed under the memes and the postings by these people, are references to such things as the Code of Professional Conduct for Midwives. Well, look, I could go on and on and on because there are so many nurses and midwives listed here at the blog, but I will link to this in this week's show notes, or if you visit reasonablehank.com, you can see it for yourself. In fact, I'll link directly to the search, so all these will come up. It's quite eye-opening. It's a little bit scary, too, to think that there are people who should enjoy a great level of respect in our community who are into the very conspiracy theory that puts their own careers in question, and that's putting it lightly. But more importantly, it's putting young lives at risk. Well done, Reasonable Hank. A very worrying story indeed. The Skeptic Zone Live, a special live recording of this very podcast at the Occidental Hotel in Sydney, just near Wynyard Station, 43 York Street. This is part of Skeptics in the Pub. Join me and the Skeptic Zone crew for live reports and interviews. Prize giveaways on the night. Everybody's welcome, but for more information and to reserve your place, visit meetup.com/AUST Skeptics. There will be a link in this week's show notes. See you there at the Skeptic Zone Live, Thursday, the 6th of October, at the Occidental Hotel, starting around 6 p.m. Joining me now all the way from Albuquerque, New Mexico. I've never been there. I'd like to visit, and if I did go to visit, I would certainly visit my old friend, Ben Radford. Hello, Ben.
Hello there, Richard.
Hello, good to see you, because that's what we're doing at the moment through the wonders of Skype. You got the old skeptical beard happening there, I see.
Yeah, I figured I need to look a little distinguished. A little bit of gray helps me either look old or look intelligent. I'm not sure which. You take your pick.
Well, that's why I've been very carefully dyeing my hair gray for years to give me that distinguished look. I put a little bit in each year. Nobody notices. They think I'm yeah, well, I wish. Anyway,
I'm skeptical.
You're skeptical. I haven't seen you since we saw each other at the last amazing meeting, which was the last amazing meeting. And I remember I interviewed you outside because we were looking for somewhere quiet, but there was constant helicopters. It was insane.
It was almost like you set it up, but I know you didn't.
I didn't. But that was a lot of fun. We certainly lament that there will be no more TAMs. It was a good run for many years. But I've given you a tap today, called you up because there's this bizarre thing going on, which I've seen on various feeds. I haven't paid it too much attention because it sort of got lost a little bit in the wash of bizarre things, but it keeps coming up. This is all about, and it sort of touches on the paranormal in a strange sort of way. This is all about creepy and bad clowns that seem to be infesting the United States. Now, what the hell is this all about?
It's actually honestly it's such a complex topic that it would really probably take me half hour to really go into, and it's a fascinating topic. As you know, I recently wrote a book about it called Bad Clowns.
Yeah,
and I go into the history of evil clowns and scary clowns and in real life and pop culture and this and that. And it was just, I've actually had some people who sort of looked at me sideways and asked me if I've been dressing as clown to promote my book. I said, no, I have an alibi. I wasn't around at the time, Ask Richard. No, but here's it's fascinating. Let me give you sort of a thumbnail sketch.
Please.
So what's been happening, and it's been especially true over the past, say 6 weeks or 2 months or so, is there's been a series of clown, scary clown, creepy clown reports. And this is actually nothing new, as I talk about in the book, and also Lauren Coleman in his book Mysterious America, and other people have written about it as well. But there's a long-standing phenomena of what are called phantom clowns. And again, I devoted a chapter in my book to it because it's such a bizarre, fascinating, Fortean topic. But basically, these are clowns, sort of rumors of clowns that have circulated. The first ones that really sort of came into prominence were in the 1980s. In 1981, for example, there was in Massachusetts, there were reports of clowns in a white van that were trying to allegedly lure and abduct children. And as you can imagine, this scared people, right?
Yeah.
Why are these clowns creeping around children? But it was interesting because when police investigated, they never found anything. It was always they would send squad cars out, they would investigate, and no one ever saw these clowns except for children. And the vast majority of the reports were from children, and some of them we know, upon investigation, we know were hoaxes, right? So, for example, there were some where, for example, a kid said that he was confronted by he was going to school with his backpack of books, and he suddenly was confronted by a clown with a machete in one hand and a Uzi machine gun in the other hand. Now, I find this dubious for several reasons, but let me finish the story. So apparently what this brave child did was he threw his bag of books at this armed clown, which terrified the clown. Apparently the bag of school books from this pubescent boy was so scared that it was so terrifying. The clown dropped his machete and machine gun and ran off. Now you may be wondering.
I'm sorry, I've got the image in my head of the funny shoes and squeak running off.
Exactly, right. And police are showing up looking for like size 48 footprints, right?
Oh dear.
So when you look at the story, you're like, well, I'm skeptical, right?
Well,
and it's like all of a sudden, the kid is the hero of the story because he bravely, shouted, scared the clown. Anyway, of course, I'm not ruining anything by telling you that he admitted this was in fact not true. And the whole thing was fake. I know, but so what happened was that over the next few decades, these so-called phantom clowns recurred in different places. So there was some in Massachusetts, there were some at Chicago. There were reports in Honduras and in Central America, also in England and elsewhere.
Good grief!
So these so-called phantom clowns, again, there would be this sort of spate of reports or sightings that would make the news for a few weeks or maybe even a month, and then sort of fade away, and then they would reemerge 6 months later or a couple of years later somewhere else. And the common thread here was that they were always near misses. There were never actually any children that were abducted, attacked, molested, killed, or anything else. It was always near misses. It was almost always children, and they almost always had the story about how and what happened was it was essentially a folkloric thing. So then the rumors started. It was basically schoolyard rumors. So some people would say, well, the reason that these clowns are trying to abduct kids is because they use they kill the children and use their blood to put on ice cream toppings.
What?
Now, again, I'm like, really? This is, and it, again, from a folkloric point of view, it's fascinating because this actually traces back to, for example, the blood libel rumors that were held against the Jews, millennia ago. So this whole notion that the blood of innocent children is being used for nefarious purposes, this has a long tradition, and it just happened to be updated in this particular clown context. So anyway, so this is the background for the phantom clowns. In addition to these phantom clowns, which, by the way, in the book I make analogies to basically what are sort of called phantom menaces, and examples of this would be Spring-Heeled Jack, or the Phantom Gasser of Mattoon, or the Taipei Slasher, and there's a handful of figures, historical sort of mysteries. There's about a dozen or so, depending on how you count them. But essentially, these tend to be masked figures who are briefly seen and reported, usually by children, not always, but oftentimes, but that are said to sort of menace people. They don't really attack people for the most part. There's very few cases of anyone actually being killed or injured. It's more sort of a menace or a threat. And so I place these phantom clowns clearly in the context of this larger group of phantom menaces. So anyway, so that's why I piece it. So that's one element that's going on. The second thing that's going on is that there have been a series of real life people, not mythological folklore people, not mythical entities like Slender Man or phantom clowns, but real people who are dressing as clowns trying to scare people. Actually, and this has been going on for several years. The first one that really caught my attention was a character named the Northampton Clown, and he was seen in Northampton, England, and it was this clown that would appear in Northampton, usually at night, just standing there looking scary, waving menacingly to passersby. And he didn't attack anyone. He didn't hurt anyone. He wasn't carrying a weapon, but it was just creepy enough to see a person in a park or a roadway or a street in the semi-darkness standing there alone. And so what happened was this Northampton clown character, he and a friend began posting photos and on social media. And so they would actually encourage people, hey, if you've seen the Northampton clown, take a photo, put it on our Facebook page. There was actually a Northampton clown Facebook page that was set up, and the whole thing turned out to be basically a publicity stunt for a filmmaker.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So anyway, so that was one of the original ones. That was the Northampton clown. And in later years, and I know because I wrote about this for Discovery News and Life Science and other outlets. I mean, I followed this very closely. So what would happen is that a few months later, in some cases a year later, often right around Halloween, there would be copycats. So there was the Staten Island clown, and then there were a couple other clowns. There was a spate of clown reports for example, in France in 2014. On one hand, again, you have these phantom clowns, which are essentially mythological, legendary, menacing creatures that are sort of that are reported but never actually seen, never actually caught, and you know, are almost certainly not real. That are essentially the product of rumors and legend. And then you have people who actually do dress as clowns. But the important distinction here is that the people who have dressed as clowns, when you actually look at what they do, they don't attack anyone for the most part. I mean, there's a handful. It's usually copycats. It's people who are just having.
That's good to know.
They're just having fun. They're because the thing, it's so easy to have this viral story, right? All you need is a clown mask. And, you know, to dress up and stand somewhere at night, wait for someone to photograph you, and suddenly you're making national news. So these two factors are at play. And what happened about 6 weeks ago in Greenville, South Carolina, there were reports of these clowns that were allegedly trying to lure people behind this group of buildings. It's this Hansel and Gretel type story. The story is that there's these apartments in Greenville, and behind this apartment complex, through a wooded area, there's a trail that goes, and there's a house back in the woods. Again, this is straight out of Hansel and Gretel, right? And the kids say, rumor among children is, for what that's worth, that there's a group of clowns that live in this house that is down through the woods past, and they have been seen luring children to them. But what's interesting, and you would think, well, what are they luring them with? You might think candy, ice cream, Pokemon cards. No. In this case, the claim is that they're luring children with big wads of money.
Well, that'll do it every time. Even
right, exactly.
that or iPhone 7s, I think.
Right, exactly. So it's this fascinating modern American twist on this legendary thing, right? And so there's clowns out there, they're flashing big wads. I'm thinking, number one, first of all, many kids are scared of clowns. So if they saw a clown, they're not going to be fooled by it. They're still going to run like hell in the opposite direction. So, and then you factor, it's a fascinating story. But so what happened was that this is taken very seriously because, again, this is, you have to remember the initial reports are about children. And oftentimes, I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say, children don't lie. And have you ever seen a child? What are you talking about? Children lie about all sorts of things for no reason at all, right? They lie for
it's
attention.
Part of exactly, and it's just part of the growing process.
That's right. That's why it doesn't mean they're evil. It doesn't mean they're bad.
No, it's just what they do. I know
That's
that.
What they do, right? So
I might have told the odd whopper myself when I was younger. You never know. No, that's understandable. I mean, and that's where the adults come along and slowly guide them and teach them what's right and wrong.
Exactly.
All right. Well, now tell me a little bit about your book and how people can get that, because it does cover this topic. Yeah.
I mean, the book is called Bad Clowns. I talked with UNM Press, the University of New Mexico Press, that published it. We were trying to think, should there be a subtitle? And we went back and forth for several weeks and said, what more do you want? the title is, the subject is bad clowns. That covers everything. Right. It goes into historical bad clowns, evil clowns, the psychology of fear of clowns. I go into dip clowns, the dunk tank clowns, Mr. Punch of the Punch Judy shows, fictional clowns. So I try to sort of cover the whole spectrum. And the book it's been out for a couple months now. You can get it on Amazon.com, local bookstores. And it just so happens, again, the timing could be better. It came out again a few months ago. I'd actually been writing it for about 10 years on and off. And it just happened that this seemed to be a good time to write about bad clowns, and boom, they're in the news everywhere all of a sudden.
Bad clowns. I wonder what'll be next. What a fascinating topic. Now, just before we go, earlier on in the show, of course, and I know you are listening, Ben, I know you listen to the Skeptic Zone every week, so you would have heard earlier in the show that you're on. No, I don't think that works. Anyway, we were talking to Sharon Hill.
Yes.
Maybe that works in some weird universe. I don't know. We were chatting to Sharon Hill of Doubtful News. Now, I must say that interview I did with Sharon was recorded earlier last week and was just lined up for this episode. And the latest news from Loch Ness hadn't hit yet, but I noticed now at Doubtful News, Sharon Hill has covered this quite well. And I'm sure you've been made aware of this, the mysterious photograph, the new one coming from Loch Ness. You have seen it, I take it.
I have. In fact, I wrote a piece for Seeker, which is formerly Discovery News, online. So if you go to Seeker, SEEKER.com, and you'll type in Loch Ness or type in my name, Benjamin Radford, you'll find the story. But yes, I wrote a piece about it, in fact, just yesterday. And in fact, I quote Sharon Hill, who I greatly admire and respect. She's done wonderful work for Doubtful News and elsewhere. And I came into the investigating the photograph and looked at the story behind it. And as Sharon points out, it's almost certainly seals, or possibly otters, but very likely seals.
Very likely seals. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting because one of the reasons that it's making such news is because in the world of Bigfoot and Loch Ness monsters and Yeti, almost all of the photos are blurry, bad, out of focus. Who knows what the hell they are? This photograph is different. It is fairly clear. And it's in focus and it's brightly lit. Unfortunately, that means that we can tell what it is. So, in this particular case, and it's interesting because if when you're looking at when you're analyzing photographs of monsters and alleged monsters, as of course I have for many years, independently and in my books and with Monster Talk podcast, what you find is there's this interesting sort of twilight zone in which if a photo is too clear, then it won't be considered mysterious because you'll be able to figure out what it is. If it's too blurry, if it's too ambiguous, then you can't tell what it is. Just some sort of blob. So that it has to be just ambiguous enough to be tantalizing, or to be. It has to be just there's an interesting gray area where if it's too clear, then it's not mysterious because we can tell what it is. If it's not clear enough, then it's just a blob against something dark. And so it's only a mystery in that little zone there. Outside of that, it's something that no one notices or pays attention to. And on one end of the spectrum, and on the other side, it's obviously an otter or a deer or a seal.
Didn't really strike me the importance of this photograph at first. I saw it and I looked, and I blew it up on my own computer and I said, it's a seal.
Right.
Could be an otter. Then I had checked the pictures of seal. It's 3 seals. They're just playing around. That's okay. So on that point of view, it didn't really worry me or impress me, and I didn't think too much more of it. But then upon reflection, I thought, and it alludes to what you say, it's a wonderful example of how photographs down through the years were almost undoubtedly of similar things from Loch Ness. But now the photography is getting better and better. We can clearly see that, of course, it's just some seals playing around. I mean, this one, you'd have to be a pretty diehard paranormal enthusiast to think this is anything other than 3 or 4 seals just playing around in the water. But it's very important because it shows us exactly that this has no doubt been the case for many years.
Right. I mean, that's exactly right. There's no reason to assume that the previous photographs were any different. I mean, it's things on the water, right? It just happened to be that the technology and the camera, the digital. I mean, there's the technology for capturing visual images has increased in quality exponentially in the past 5-10 years, and so it's the same thing. When you look at, for example, the evidence for Bigfoot, right? To this day, most Bigfoot believers will tell you that the best evidence for Bigfoot is the Patterson-Gimlin film, which was shot in 1967. 1967. That's how old this film is, and the irony is that if someone today shot that same Patterson-Gimlin film, the blurry image of the creature going from right to left in Bluff Creek, California, if that was shot today, the quality of the cameras would be such that people would recognize it immediately. It's a guy in a suit. It looks exactly like a guy in a suit. But because it's a mistake to misunderstand the poor quality of visual recording technology from decades before and sort of conflate that with back then there were mysterious things. No, back then the photography was worse. That's why we don't know what the hell it is, which is why, and it's causing an interesting effect in the world of the paranormal cryptozoology, I would argue, because again the technology is getting better and better and better every year, and so it raises really interesting questions for what would a plausible Bigfoot photo, what would a plausible Nessie photo look like in 10 years. And because my guess is that the so-called plausible images are going to sooner or later vanish, because there will be no plausible images, because all the quality of the cell phone videos and the high definition cameras are going to be such that people know exactly what it is. It can no longer be mistaken for a lake monster, a sea monster, or a Bigfoot, because we now know what it is. And so there again, it goes back to that sort of twilight zone of ambiguity in which mysteries evolve.
Oh, the golden era of the paranormal may be slipping behind us. I don't know. That will be a sad day. Or will it? Oh, I don't know. I like that old-fashioned stuff. I love reports of Loch Ness.
Oh, me too.
Well, Ben, I think one day you'll have to come out here to visit Australia and New Zealand, and we can, we could hunt for the yowie.
I'd love to.
Yowie and other monsters that apparently are running around here in Australia. Although strangely enough, I've noticed over the years when I and other skeptics turn up, the monsters seem to run away.
You scare them, Richard. You scare them.
And if people want to check your website out, Ben, I think it's just benjaminradford.com.
It is exactly. Although I would say it in an American accent, but it works either way. Whatever. Australian English or American English, it's all the same.
Oddly enough, it still works. Ben Radford, all the way from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks to be on. Take care.
Hey, Heidi.
Oh, hi, Joe.
Hi, Heidi.
Oh, hi, Maynard.
Hi, Maynard.
Oh, hi, Joe.
Nice day in this park, yeah?
Yes, great weather.
Oh, look, a unicorn.
A unicorn? There are no such things as unicorns, silly.
Yes, there are.
No, there isn't.
Hey, ladies, what are you arguing about?
Joe thinks unicorns are real.
They so are.
Let's look this up in the Skeptics Dictionary.
The what?
How can we do that in this park? There are no computers here.
You ladies probably don't know about the Skeptics Dictionary app, available now for iPhone, iPad and iPod Touch in the App Store.
Yeah, we do. We've been listening to the Skeptic Zone for years, you know.
Yes, okay. The app lets you access all the great Skeptics Dictionary articles when you're on the go. Here, let me look up unicorns.
Oh, cool. Heidi, prepare to be proven wrong.
It says here the unicorn is a creature from fables.
Aha.
Actually, I see now that someone just dumped their ice cream cone on that horse's head.
Thanks, Skeptic Dictionary iPhone app.
That's just some guy in his undies.
Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone, and thank you to Sharon Hill and Ben Radford for taking part this week. Now, here's a few more little notes before we sign out, off and away from the Skeptic Zone. Those people in Australia, if you have not seen the new movie Spin Out, which is currently in wide release, it's a lot of fun. I was very lucky. I went to see a special preview last week of Spin Out here in Sydney, which was a lot of fun. Maynard was there too, doing lots of interviews, as Maynard would. A big thank you to Tim Ferguson, the director, the co-director of Spin Out, for having me come along. Much appreciated. And if you have seen the movie, why not head over to maynard.com.au for a special podcast you'll see there. Behind the scenes of Spin Out. Maynard spent some time on the set as they were filming. He interviews the director, the co-director Tim Ferguson, and many of the stars of the movie. Check it out, maynard.com.au for the Behind the Scenes podcast. And as I've mentioned before, full disclosure, I'm not getting any special kickbacks or deals for mentioning this movie. It's just nice to help out a friend. And also, I like to support the local film and TV industry because I do part-time work in it from time to time. In fact, those people in Australia, if you saw the first episode of the new TV series Doctor, right at the beginning of the show, there was a strange anesthesiologist doing an operation with big glasses. Well, that was me. Now, here's some exciting news that will be of interest if you're in New Zealand. The New Zealand Skeptics have a convention coming up the 2nd to the 4th of December in beautiful Queenstown. For more information, visit conference.skeptics.nz. And I'm very lucky indeed, very fortunate. I'll be one of the guest speakers at the convention. Looking forward to that enormously. And it'll be nice to bump into some old friends, including Susan Gerbeck, who has appeared on the Skeptic Zone from time to time. Well, I'm sure I'll be talking about this conference a bit more over the next few months and hopefully interviewing some of the people from New Zealand, the New Zealand Skeptics, all about it. If you are in New Zealand or if you know people in New Zealand, some of your New Zealand Facebook friends, point them towards conference.skeptics.nz. And I'm sure we'll have a lot of fun. I'm going to be bringing some divining rods, and we're going to be doing some divining tests and stuff like that. And I think my talk is going to be around the secrets of the psychics or something like that. Something like that. More news about that before long. And lastly, thank you once again to those generous people who show their support to the Skeptic Zone by their monthly or weekly donations via PayPal or via Patreon, and you can sort all that out at skepticzone.tv. Well, somebody has to buy Maynard all those cups of coffee and tea. But for this week, this is Richard Saunders signing off from Sydney, Australia. You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for contacts, an archive of all episodes since 2008, and our online store. Please support the Skeptic Zone by following us on Twitter at Skeptic Zone, liking us on Facebook, and leaving a review on iTunes. You can also show your support by subscribing via PayPal for as little as 99 cents a week. The Skeptic Zone is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed on the Skeptic Zone are not necessarily those of Australian Skeptics Inc. or any other skeptical organisation. Okay, I've got to do a quick edit. Excuse me for a minute. I've got to kick the two cats out. They've just walked in and they're climbing all over. Okay, you two. Out, out, out. Go on. You out, out. 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 All right, I'll feed you later. There you go. They're lovely, but they decided to walk into the studio now to talk to me and or at least try to get my attention.